I was being polite.
That's right.
Welcome to another edition of the Sumner Success Center podcast. We unfortunately don't have Leslie with us today, Miss Ramirez, but me and Dr. DeVries will be here going through some stuff today, right? How are you doing today?
I am fabulous. How are you?
You can't be using my word. I'm
Okay.
fabulous.
I am brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah, brilliant. You should see my new shirt that I got. My new T-shirt line. I can't say it on this podcast,
Okay.
but they're
I'll,
brilliant. They're fabulous.
I
So
can't wait.
the topic of today is FAFSA and FAFSA, FAFSA, right?
Right.
And what does that mean?
FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So
Yeah,
that's the document that everyone who wants to qualify for grants, for student loans, for some scholarships, everybody has to fill that out. It shows what your need-based aid is. So based on your financial need.
because a lot of colleges have institutional scholarships and money that they give out as well on top of that. So
Mhm.
you could fill out your FAFSA for a university or college that you want to go to, and they will already mark in like monies for you in your scholarship package because you have that need based. So that's what I dealt with when I was an admissions counselor. But my FAFSA experience was um, like I did my FAFSA, but my mom didn't do her taxes like she would wait forever to do her taxes. And this is kind of going like after the fact, after your first year and stuff, and after when you renew your FAFSA every year. Like when the thing that I remember is that like I would fill it out on time, but like I wouldn't get the monies because I my mom wouldn't fill out her taxes and we couldn't go in there and redo it. I didn't know until years later, after I had already graduated my master's degree, that you could go in there and put will file
Mhm.
as your thing, and you could like it'll keep you at that date that you
Mhm.
filed, and then you go back in and say I filed, but I didn't know that, so I missed out on a whole bunch of money that way. But
Yeah.
that's some of the mistakes that we do, and like we didn't have a FAFSA night at our school. If I did, like I didn't go to it because for whatever reason, but I don't remember none of that. And my friends don't remember none of that either because like we were in the same boat. He didn't go to college, I did. I figured it out somehow. But that was my FAFSA experience. I did most of it on my own and like reading it and filling it out and different things like that. I was like, I need your taxes, mom. I didn't know what about taxes or anything. What about you?
Yeah. I think the FAFSA is one of those, it's like a, it's not really that hard to fill out, but you have to have like the language of being a taxpayer to do it. And most 17 or 18-year-old kids don't have that. And even though, you take personal finance classes in high school and you have to learn that kind of stuff, it doesn't make sense really until you have to actually you've actually done it. So a lot of the language of FAFSA is really hard for students to understand. And then it just feels like there's so much that doesn't make any sense. So it's almost like, we've all had a teacher who's trying to explain a really difficult concept, but they don't have the words to make it simple enough for people who don't understand the concept. to understand it. And it's like the federal government is that same way. They know all the right words, but they don't do a very good job of helping people who don't work for a tax agency to understand those vocabulary words. So that's one of the things that I think, like Mr. Ramirez and myself and our FAFSA live sessions are meant to do, is to help define the vocabulary of FAFSA, because there are some things like, they'll say you need your W-2 form for that. Well, if you're a student and you've never had a job outside of like babysitting or yard work with your friend mowing lawns or stuff like that, you've never gotten a W-2, so you don't even know what that is. So that's one of the things we can do, is to help you understand all those things they're talking about in the FAFSA, so that you can find the right information. Once you have the form, the FAFSA tells you what line to look on to get your right answer. But if you don't even know what form you're looking for, it's really hard. So there's just a lot of stuff that I think a lot of students end up deciding, you know what, it's too hard, it's not worth it, I'm not even going to mess with it. And then ultimately that leads them to not being able to afford to go to college. And so they don't go to college. And that's the thing that's really sad. So we want to make sure that even though it's difficult, that you have all the support you need so that you can do it. So paying for college isn't a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
I had some trouble with my FAFSA. I mean, I went to college so long ago, and it's changed so much since back when I was a student. But I used the FAFSA when I was an adult, going back to get my master's and to get my doctorate, because even though I didn't qualify, even though the federal government doesn't give free money for graduate programs, my school offered scholarships for graduate programs if I had need. And also I could qualify for some loans if I had need. And I did. I needed to take out loans to pay for my doctoral program and for my master's program. So I had to fill it out as an adult as well. And one time I got online and I just Googled FAFSA. I went to this first site that came up, filled it all out, got all the way to the end, and there was a place for me to pay by credit card, $49.95. I was like, what? $49.95? And I almost paid it. And then I was like, wait a second. The first word in FAFSA is free. Free application for federal student aid. So I had gotten onto this site that was like, it was a total money-making scam. Like, they wanted you to fill out all the exact same information, pay them, and then they were going to go in and file it with the federal government. So that's a big
If
one.
they even file it, though.
Yeah, I'm not even sure they could have filed it, but it was a scam. So luckily I was smart enough to know not to pay that. But I think a lot of students make that mistake because, I mean, it makes sense that you might have to pay. But remember, the first word in FAFSA is free, free, free. Never pay for money to go to college. Never pay for money to go to college.
Yeah.
Did I say that? Never pay for money to go to college.
And attention to detail is important, because like the paperwork that we give out has those details on it, but oftentimes we move so quickly, and our students move so quickly that they just want to type it into Google and select that first thing that comes up. But people pay to be at the top of those Google searches, or they get so many people that go to get that SEO is what they call it. And you might be going to the wrong website. And so it's just it's more simpler to just look on the paper, put those letters in, FAFSA.gov.
Gov.
GOV.
Gov. Yeah, that's an easy mistake to make. Yeah, and the thing about FAFSA is you do have to be really detail oriented. And I get it, like I'm a big Amazon shopper, so when I go on Amazon, I want to click 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 get all the way through and get to the checkout so it's on the way. But I mean, you really can't do that with FAFSA. You need to pay really close attention to the details. You need to read all the words that pop up. And I know that we're used to just, click and agree and going on without really reading the words. But you really need to read it to make sure that you're doing what it asks you to do. And here's the thing, if you read it and you don't understand it, don't ignore it. Don't just click yes or guess what your answer should be. Ask. That's what's really important, is to ask for help. So if
That's why
nothing else,
the FAFSA nights are important.
yeah. And because of COVID, the FAFSA nights are going to look really different this year. So the district is sponsoring 4 FAFSA online sessions. The first one is coming up just in a few days, next Monday. But the first one is setting up your FSA ID, which your FSA ID is really just your username and password. So I don't know why the federal government has to call it the FSA ID and why they can't just call it the username and password, but that's what they call it. So you have to set that up, and students have to set that up, and parents have to set that up. So both students and parents have to have an FSA ID, and that allows you to sign the FAFSA electronically. Then there's going to be another night called FAFSA 101, where we just walk families through filling it out and just go through step by step filling that out. There's going to be a third night where everything is presented, walking it through in Spanish, so that if families are more fluent in Spanish than they are in English, then they have the resource of a native Spanish speaker whose first language is Spanish, walking them through it. And then the last night is going to be for students who have special circumstances. So like if parents are divorced and share custody, or if there's a parent who's not in the picture anymore, or students live with mom and stepdad, but dad is still around, how to manage, those different families dynamics. And then also students who have undocumented parents, how they can still file for FAFSA. Students who are undocumented are not eligible to file a FAFSA, but if a student is a US citizen, they can file for FAFSA even if their parents are not US citizens. And there's a special way to do that. But we just want to make sure that students know how to do it so that they don't miss out on money that they themselves qualify for. So that fourth night will be dealing with special circumstances. We know that those 4 sessions are going to be really important and helpful to families, but we also know that a lot of families want to work one-on-one with someone. And so that's why we have set aside a lot of time to work with families one-on-one to help them file the FAFSA. And so in the registration form for FAFSA Live, there is also a place to connect with Ms. Ramirez or myself for individual family appointments to fill out the FAFSA. And we're going to be offering those throughout the fall. We're happy to meet during the school day. We're even going to have some times, in the evenings that families can sign up for. So trying really hard to meet the needs of our families. And Ms. Ramirez is fluent in Spanish. So if you are a family who prefers to work in Spanish, she can work with you. I am not. But I'm happy to help. And we also have a lot of resources within the school to help us connect with translators. So if your family, for example, if your family speaks Vietnamese, we can get a translator who speaks Vietnamese who can sit in on that meeting and help us get through everything so that your parents can fully understand what's going on, because we don't want language to be a reason that families feel unable to complete the FAFSA. So we've got translators that can work with us in almost any language that a family might speak. And we also don't want students to feel like they have to be the translators. That can put kids in a really awkward situation. I said the word kids, I meant students. You know, I meant students.
That's my pet peeve.
I know it's your pet peeve, and I'm trying not to use it. It's my pet peeve too, but it's not enough for me to. It's my pet peeve in others, not in myself.
We have students. It doesn't matter how old they are. We don't want to. We have students.
We have students. That's right.
Yeah, because I have students that are adults that are older than me that I have to teach.
True. That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, the FAFSA is very important, and this is all about positioning. We got to position ourselves for success and for what we want. So if college is the route that you want to take, you have to be positioning yourself. You have to do these little things in order to get to that place where we are actually in school or whatever you want to do after high school. Just having the opportunity and having choices really is what you want to have coming out of high school. So not a lot of, I mean, by choices I mean not by a lot of different colleges choices. It's just like I have this option to go this way, I just have this option to go this way, and then you make a decision. It's And I tell students all the time that it's not what are you going to do for the rest of your life. It's hey, this is what I'm going to choose to go pursue right now, and if I need to, I can pivot because you can definitely use all of the stuff that you learn through going to med school. There's a lot of examples of like the Asian guy on like some of those movies, like um, I I don't want to
Is
say
this the
the
guy from Hawaii Five-O? I think he's the guy who used to be on that television show Hawaii Five-O, who's a doctor and then became
yeah, I became
yeah.
an actor, yeah. So like he didn't use it, but like I guarantee you, like the study habits, those things that he learned throughout his process of achieving that goal translated into where he actually really wanted to do. So it's not a waste of time if you do something and see it all the way through and then pivot because you're going to learn something by achievement. The and and achievement is momentum for you to go and move forward and pursue whatever you want, and then you have the confidence to just go ahead and hey, I've done this. I completed it. I know I can. Like it's basically the same process, and even if you don't know what you're going to do or going to major in, I didn't know what I was going to major in, and my assistant principal at our school was like, "Oh, just major in anything, and you'll get a good job." And I was like, "Well, okay." I mean, that's like the only advice that I got, but um, I was different. I was like, I'm gonna major in something that like appeals to me, like, and I ended up picking the right thing, huh?
How many times did you change your major when you were in college?
No,
You didn't. So when you picked, because your major is what? Uh,
I double majored in human service agency management and recreation administration.
okay, and you never once you picked that, you stuck with that.
Yeah, I stuck with it because I mean it gave me I don't like limitations and I don't like to just specialize in one thing. I like to have options all the time so that I can pick and choose what I wanted to do. And that major gave me the most variety or the
Right.
most options to go into because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And then it gave me the most bang for my buck. So I was a part of an organization called the Nonprofit Leadership Alliance now that is based out of Kansas City that certifies nonprofit professionals. So
Mhm.
I was double majoring. I was being involved in this organization, getting leadership skills. At the end of fulfilling all of the requirements, I got a certification. So I was going to leave my undergraduate degree or undergraduate work with a double major,
Mhm.
a certification, and like recognition. Plus, I did an internship, which was double the internship hours because I had a double major. So that was tough getting 300 hours in a semester while playing basketball and going to school full time. But that's neither here nor there. But I tried to quit basketball, but they wouldn't let me. So
Yeah, so you're kind of one of those unusual stories because I feel like a lot of students change their mind a lot. I know when I was in college, I started out, my major was pre physical therapy. I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. So I was taking a lot of science classes. For a while, I thought I wanted to go into nursing. So that was fine. My science classes applied there. But then I switched. I bet you've never heard of this. For a while, my major was gerontology. You ever heard of that?
yeah, it's a study of old people.
It is study of old people. So I thought I wanted to work like with like at a senior center, like kind of like being a social worker for senior citizens or something like that. Like that's kind of what I thought I wanted to do. Um, but I don't know. I got tired of that, and I finally graduated with a degree in English, which I mean, I don't know if you're out there looking for jobs, but it's kind of there's not a big job market for English majors. I mean, outside
Okay.
of teaching. And I thought I didn't want to be a teacher. Like people would say, "Oh, what are you going to do with that? Be a teacher?" And I was like, "No, I'm never going to be a teacher." And what did I become? A teacher, which has been the most amazing career. Like I taught high school and middle school, and then I became a school counselor. So, I mean, I've been in education really, for 27 years, something like that. So I've been in education for a really long time. Um, but I mean, I've loved it. But if you would have asked me in high school, what are you going to study in college? What are you going to be when you grow up? I never would have said teacher. I had lots of other things in my head, but never teacher. So,
But were they things that were in your head, or were they presented to you by outside sources? Like,
Um, a little bit of both. My
didn't
dad,
know.
yeah, my dad was really interested in me pursuing something in healthcare. And my dad is old school. He thought being a nurse was a good job for a woman. So he felt like that was, something that a woman could do. um, so, I mean, I had some influence from my family, but I was a first generation college student, so they really like my parents didn't really have uh, a really good sense of how college works. They wanted me to go to college not for the sake of learning, but for the sake of getting a job. Which I mean, as a parent now, I mean, my biggest hope for my children was that they would get a job and move out. So I kind of get that. Um, but now that I work in the role that I'm in, and as an adult too, I feel like it's really important that the work that you do is fulfilling. So figuring out what you want to study, where that can lead you. I mean, because you want your job to be really fulfilling. And my job is fulfilling. And I think your job, you probably think is fulfilling, but you have hopes and dreams and goals to be even more fulfilled. So that never changes. I mean, if when you stop having goals and working toward those goals, even if you're, 36 or 52, it's still really important that you are striving for those goals and, making sure that you're doing the stuff you need to do to get where you want to be.
Well, just growing in general, like you need to grow, consistently grow throughout your life anyways, because like if you're not growing, you're dying. And if you stop growing at 28 years old when you're out of school with your master's degree, then that's where your education stops, you know. But there's more to be educated on as far as world and people and different things like that. So like every day is a learning experience for me. I'm around people all the time, even in cope, not all the time, but like I still interact with people at the gym and things like that. So um like it's a constant growth. And like reading books and learning other topics and things that um interest you, that is, I mean, that's that's constant growth. And then all of that stuff adds on to the innovation that you can use for whatever you're actually doing. So
Yep.
there's a good book called Range by David Epstein, whatever you want to call him. That is good for students to read in their off time. And then the Creative Mind documentary on Netflix is a good one that shows how these people do many different things, but the one thing that they want to specialize in, they used things from their past, their experience as a cook, chef, or whatever, and they use it all of these abilities. We should have ended the podcast a long time, but now you got guests.
I got guests. Yeah. And we have another meeting to go
Oh yeah,
to.
that's
So
right.
we better sign off.
All right. Y'all enjoyed. Have a good one.
Thanks.